Hi, we're back. Today we're going to continue on with hooking up some events for the StringGrid object that we've been playing around with. If you watched part 25 and 24, you are already informed as to what we're working on. And if you haven't, I would recommend that you go back and watch those parts before continuing on with this one. It'll get you ready for what's coming up today. Very well. I've got our StringGrid, our form and our StringGrid is selected. And we're going to look over here at the events. StringGrid is highlighted in the object inspector, and I'm scrolling down here through this stuff. So currently we have the StringGrid key down, key press, key up. All those events have been created and fleshed out with code, and so has the StringGrid mouse down event. So if you click down on the StringGrid with the mouse, you click that will trigger that event. So we still have the on mouse enter event, mouse leave, mouse move, and mouse up events that we have to flesh those out. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Let's take a look at our code. This is where we are with our code. Okay. And now we're going to add some more events. Let's do on mouse enter. Now this means when the mouse, let's see what it means. Okay. So it says that property with the event handler signaled when the mouse pointer has entered the bounds of the control being the StringGrid object. Okay. On mouse enter is signaled from the mouse enter method when assigned and occurs after the parent control has been notified of the event. The sender argument contains the control for the notification and must be cast to tControl type to access the properties or values specific to the class type. Okay, so basically that tells you what it does. We're going to double click on this blank area like that, and it has generated StringGrid mouse enter. Okay, and now we're going to flesh out that event. So mouse enter, when that happens, we're going to take the panel mouse event caption, and we're going to set it equal to the mouse enter literals, string literal, and that's what we're going to do here. It's going to be mouse enter, just like that. Okay, and then we're going to clear the mouse button caption and the shift state captions. So those are panels. That's get that little out of the way. A panel, and that's the mouse button. Dot caption. And we're going to set that equal to empty string, like this. Okay. And then we have the mouse shift state button caption. So that's panel, and that's called mouse shift state. And I don't think, is that what I called it? I think it's just mouse shift, isn't it? Yes, it's just mouse shift. I didn't put state. I remember now I took state off of that because it was too long. Caption. It's not caption, it's caption. Okay, like that. All right, and that's going to get set to blank. And then we have enter, okay, and then the mouse XY coordinate. That isn't set by this event, so we'll clear it. Mouse XY caption, and that's equal to a blank, like that. Okay, and now we can go on to the next one. All right, and the next one is mouse leave. Okay, so we're going to double click that one, and now we have the StringGrid mouse leave event, and that's going to be a similar thing. So let's just, instead of retyping all this, speed things up just a bit. Let's just copy all of those lines, okay? And come on, Larry, come on. Shift N. There we go. I'm going to do a Control C. Come down here, hit Home, and do a Control V. And that's everything copied. And this will say mouse leave, just like that. That sped things up considerably. And now we're going to do the mouse move event. So we double click on this empty box after the mouse move event label. We double click it, and we've just created the mouse move event procedure. And on mouse move, we're going to copy all that stuff like we did before. So we'll stay at home and do a shift insert. Shift insert and Control V work the same way. It copies what's on the clipboard into this space. And this is not mouse enter, it is mouse move. We'll delete that. And mouse move, does it provide us it provides us some information. Okay. Mouse move event. The mouse shift caption will now contain the shift state. So that gets changed. Okay. So now we're going to format. And we're going to format this as %D, which is an integer decimal value, okay? And we have to make this cardinal. We're going to convert, and too many D's, huh? Is that a keyboard bounce or is that me bouncing? I don't know. Okay, that's cardinal, and that's the shift value, which is passed right up here, the shift state value right here. See? That's where that comes from. Okay. And that takes care of that. And what about the XY caption? Now that's a mouse move, so we're going to have an XY set of values. So let's, here, we have to format again. So that's a format. And now we're formatting two things. That's going to be X and Y, which they come in right here. X is right here, it wraps, and Y are integers. And that's your XY coordinates of the mouse pointer. So now we're going to do %4D. That just says 4 digits. All right? And we're going to do %4D again. So that's the X, comma, the Y. And then we have to pass those arguments to the format routine, and they're passed as pointers, as an array of pointers. So what we have to do here is put those in those right angle or those square brackets, okay? And we just pass the values in. So that's X, comma, Y, just like that. And the format statement ends with a closed paren, and that takes care of that caption. And that's all we have to do for that. It doesn't pass any button event back, or doesn't pass a button value back, so we're good there. Okay, what's the next one? Mouse up. Okay, so now we're going to do the mouse up event. Double click this, and we get our procedure skeleton for us. And this does pass a button and a shift state and XY coordinates. So we could save some time by copying all of this again, like this, and we do Control-C to copy it. That puts it on the clipboard. And now we come down here and position to the beginning of the line, and now we can do a shift insert, and there we go. Now this isn't a mouse move, we've got to change that. This is mouse up. So we just put UP in there, get rid of the move, okay. And this does have a button caption, I believe. Mouse up does have a button caption. Yes, it does. So we are going to do a format for that. All right. So we're going to format, and then we're going to pass a format string. And this is going to be just percent hex. I'm going to use hexadecimal. So this will be percent 4 capital X. That's up to 4 hexadecimal digits. Okay? That's what that does. And then we need to pass it the value. So that's going to be in square brackets, right? That's going to be cardinal. And cardinal value of what? Oops. It's going to be the cardinal value of button. B-U-T-T-O-N, just like that. And that got passed from this value right here, which is a type mouse button, okay? And we've already got the shift state, and that's shift right here, and we've already done that in the previous one that we copied in. And we're also getting the XY coordinates on a mouse up, so that was already done as well. That's right here, okay? And that's this value, these two integer values right here are passed in the argument list, okay? Okay, and that takes care, we're done through mouse up, and those are all the ones I'm going to hook up. Now, if you want, as a little exercise on your own, the ones I haven't done, oh, well, maybe I'm going to do, let's try this out, what we have done so far. So let's save this, and let's try running it. It's going to compile, and if I've made any mistakes, it's going to yell at me. And it looks like I made a mistake here. I didn't terminate this with a parenthesis, the left parenthesis. That's what happened there. Okay, and that seems to be the only error. So let's save that change. And now let's run it. Oh, I've done it again. This is what happens when you copy stuff, okay? I copied that same mistake over and over again. All right, let's save that for repair. Let's go back and try running it again. Hey, it worked. It worked. Okay, so now some things happen. I had a mouse move event, right? I had a mouse leave event. If I just barely bring that mouse pointer to where it just touches the border, you do a mouse enter, will it? Come on. There it is, mouse enter. Okay. Now if I go any further inward, then it's a mouse move event. And you'll notice that as I move the mouse, right, the X and Y coordinates are changing. Okay, so it's tracking it as I move the mouse. All right. We have, if I click down, that's the mouse down event, right? And if I release it, that's the mouse up event. You see that? Okay, and if I do that off of the control, mouse down, mouse up, nothing. And you notice that the leave event is triggering when I drag the pointer off of the StringGrid. Boom. And now it's mouse leave event. There you go. So that's hooking up some stuff. There was one other thing I wanted to do. Now I think, you know, we added the ability to size these columns, right? So there's one other thing I wanted to hook up, and that is the header size event. So let's stop this from running right now. That. And let's look over here. This is, there's two of them. There's on header sized, and it says, this is a header event property with the event handler signaled when a column or a row on the grid has been resized. So header sized. Okay. There's a header click event. There's a header sized event. And this occurs when the mouse is released. The button is released. So going back to our control here, when you drag your mouse over this border here, you'll see that the two arrow the icon kind of light up, and that's indicating it can be well, let's just run it. I'll show you what I'm talking about instead of babbling. Okay, this one doesn't, because you can't resize this as a fixed column, but this isn't. So now when I drag my mouse over that dividing line, I can now resize it. And if I want to resize it, I have to press the mouse button down, like I just did. And we had a down event trigger, if you see there at the bottom. Now if I drag it, okay, this is the on, this would trigger the on header sizing event because I'm sizing. But as soon as I release the mouse button, which is a mouse up event, then you get your on header sized event trigger, okay? So I want to use that. I want to do something with that. I've got my notes here of what I wanted to do. Okay. Now this doing this is going to show kind of how convoluted it is. Did I ever hook up the key down event? Yes, I did. Okay, key down's hooked up. I can't remember if I did that or not. So let's go to the grid header size event right here, and let's double click that. And that created this procedure right here, which will get executed when that event occurs. And it passes in an is column Boolean, which I don't know why we would need that. I don't think we need that. So we are going to grab some stuff and display it. Now my idea is that when we resize this object, when we resize this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the resized values. I'm going to actually go out and get the size of each of the columns here and display it in the fourth element, the fourth row of the string grid. That's what I'm going to do. So that shows how you can enter data. You'll see how you can enter data into these cells and how we get the sizes of the columns. So that'll be a little bit more information that you might be useful to you sometime. So let's go back to our code. Now what we're going to need is to get some variables. At least this is the way I'm going to handle it. So we have to declare that we're going to have variables. So that's var, right? And now we start declaring variables. So these are all going to be integers. So I precede the name with the lowercase I to indicate that this is an integer. And then I'd say what it is. So this is column. Okay. This is I column end. This is I row. Oops. I want to make that lowercase. I row. And this is going to be I width. Okay. And put a colon there, and then we tell it what it is, and it's an integer. Just like those are all integers. Okay. Now we're going to get the last column. So we need to find the last column for this object, right? And that will be I column end. The last column, the number, is equal to S grid, the string grid, and now we're going to get the property. We're looking for a property. So that's going to be a column count. And you'll see that it shows that's an integer, right? Now the odd thing about this is that the integer, in this case, the count isn't the count we're looking for. And I'll show you what I mean. If you look down here, okay, StringGrid is currently highlighted in the object inspector, right? And if we look in properties and we look at column count, it's 4, right? It's 4. But if you look up here, the first name column is numbered 0, the last name column is 1, and the birth date column is column number 2. So what we have to do here is we have to subtract 2 from this. Now 2 is a magic number, because it doesn't, putting 2 there, no, if you look at this line, you go, well, why are you putting 2 there? Now what you can do is you can just put a comment right here and say, subtract 2 to adjust for true column number. And that ran off, didn't it? So I guess what we're going to have to do is we're just going to have to do that. Okay. All right. So now we need the row. I want to get row. So let's get the row. It's I row is equal to. And now we're going to have to get the row count. So we want to get StringGrid dot, let's type in R, row, okay, and if we go down here, there's row count. That's what we want. Now the problem is the number of rows is not the row count. Right? If we look at the if we look at row count here, down here, row count, it's 5. Well, 5 includes the count of the fixed row, right? So if I go back and I look at this, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's 5 columns. It's 5 rows. This is the first row. This is the second row, third row, fourth and fifth row. So the number we get here isn't really the row, the number of rows. We only have rows 0, 1, 2, I'm sorry, this is row 0. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the last row is row count minus 1. It's row 4, okay? And so we could say here, subtract 1 to adjust for true, and here we go again, last row number, and that's going to be for last, true last column number. Okay, now why are we doing this? Well, we'll see. All right. So now we want to scan. So when this event's over with and we've resized the columns, we want to scan and see. We're going to scan all the columns. That's the idea. So we're going to use a for loop. So that's for what? I column, which is what we defined up above as an integer, is equal to 0 to I column end, right? Do begin. All right. And it put the end in for us. Now we're going to get the width of the column. So we will say that I width, the integer that we had there declared up above, is equal to StringGrid dot columns, right? Let's let that okay, and now we're going to say columns, right? And now we have to give it the index to the column. All right, which column are we going to get the width for? Well, it's going to be the integer, the current integer in the for loop, which is set right now. The first time through, it's going to be column 0, but there it is. And we want what? We want the property which is called width. And there it is. Just like that. Now we've got the width. We want to put it in the last last row of that column. So we say StringGrid dot, and now that's each of those each of the cells is called a cell. So we want to set the value of a cell. So we have cells, and cells takes a column and a row integer, right? And that cell contains a string. That's what we see here. To address a cell specifically, we have to give it the column and the row number in that order. Those are two integers. And then that thing we're addressing is a string. Okay? That's what that means. So let's do that. And so now we have to give it the column. So it's I column plus 1. Now the first time I did this, I went plus 1. What on earth? Well, when you're addressing the cells, now it includes the fixed column is 0. So you have to add 1 to it to get over to the correct column. It's very confusing. And the first time I did it, I was setting the values in the fixed column, which is, let's look at it. I was storing the value here. This is column 0. When you're addressing the cells, this cell is in column 0. So we have to add 1 to it to put the value in the correct cell. What can I say? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Because these should be immutable anyway. You shouldn't be changing these if they're fixed. Why should it let you change these? But it does. It does. Anyway, back to our fun. Okay, and we're going to set that to, and now we've got to give it the row, right? Yes, we have to give it the row. We gave it I column plus 1. That's the column number. Now we have to set the row that we're changing. So that's going to be I row. Oh, and I want to put a lowercase I in there. All right. So that's I row. And that doesn't have to be altered. That works. So I row is the row count minus 1, which is what we computed up above. And that works. That's fine. Now we have to set the value. So it's a string. So we say that's going to be equal to, and then we're going to do a format statement. And now format statements do return a string. okay? If you look at, here's a format prototype, right? And it says it's type string at the end. Same for this one. You know, one is overloaded. This is polymorphism at work. In other words, there's two ways of doing a format, and they're both called the same thing. They're differentiated by the arguments that follow in the parameter list. That's how they different. That's how the compiler knows which one you want. Okay? All right, so now we're at the format statement, and what are we going to format this as? And it's just going to be an integer. So we would just put in %d. It's a decimal number, and that's it. And we're going to pass it the width, which is stored in here. It's a, you know, it's an array of pointers. So this is I width, and there it is. So if we resize the header, when we do that and we lift the mouse button, this event's going to trigger. It's going to get the widths of the columns and display them in the last row of the string grid. So we're going to try running it. We'll see if we have any. Oh, I never stopped the old one. Okay, I stopped it. Now we're going to run this. It's going to compile. It compiled without errors. Okay, it did give me some hints. These are hints that is column is not used and index is not used. So those are probably parameters in these event procedures that weren't used. Okay. So let's test and see what happens. So I'm going to drag the first name column, and when I release it, yay! First name column is 114 pixels wide. Let's do the last name. Okay. And when I release the button, it's now 119. Let's make the birth date. It's currently 80. I drag it and release it, and now it's 106. Okay? And I didn't hook this button up event or anything, but we've basically got this working. If I type things in here like A, B, C, it gives us the shift codes and the characters. If I hit a Control C, it shows me a Control C, right? Right? And it's showing me the events. Like if I press L and then I release it, see? When I press it, it's a press event. And when I release it, it's a key up event. Okay? So that's about all we're going to do with string grids. What I was thinking about doing next is, you recall that we filter the entries going into birth date. So if I type ABC, nothing happens. If I type 1, 2, 3, it lets them through, right? And I can put a slash in. Can I put a dash in? No. I can't put dashes in. Oh, that's okay. Dash. Okay. What about shift this? Okay. Dash. That's weird. That's just weird. Anyway, that's not a valid date, is it? So, I mean, if I hit backspace and I put 10-25 in, that could be a good date. That could be, you know, December of this year, since this is 2025. So I was thinking, if I hit tab, it exited that cell and it came down to the next row, right? And now it's accepting the next. So the perfect time to check if that's a valid date is when I exit that cell. Now the problem is there's, like if I'm in the cell right now, right? I can exit it by hitting tab, that's a key event. But I can also exit it by pressing the mouse key in the cell below. That's a different event. So you would have possibly two events that you would have to hook up to check the date. Or what you could do is you fill everything in, and when you hit, and let's say this is your save button, and when you click the save button, you check everything. You can do that too. So, and there's, that wouldn't be a bad way of doing it. But wouldn't it be better if when you're done entering the date and you exit that, when you exit that cell, that would be a more logical time to check that. So we're going to look into that. But I think I'm going to make this a short one today. We covered quite a bit of ground. And I'm going to let that go for today. And the next time we get together, we're going to look at how to trigger the checking of the date. And then we're going to write a function that checks the date to see if it's valid. Now, what's valid? Well, it could be, maybe a birth date can't be in the future. A birth date could be today or any time prior to today, within reason. If you enter a birth date that would make the person 200 years old, that could be a problem because there's probably no 200-year-old people around. Or maybe we were going to require, maybe we need to require a 4-digit year. In other words, you have, if you're going to do, and let's require that it has to be a date which is not beyond the current date. So I could say he was born on January the 10th of 2025. And it has to be a legitimate date in that it can't be January the 0th or the 32nd, because those aren't valid dates either. So it has to check several things to make sure we have a good date. And we'll find a way of doing that. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do that yet. I'd like to use a feature that's available in the free Pascal standard library, and that's probably what I'm going to try to do, find a way of doing that to make things simple. But at any rate, if you found the information that I covered today on string grids useful or entertaining, give me a like. Press that like button. And if you like the content and you want to see more of it, subscribe. So anyway, have a nice day. Goodbye.